If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge. And when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. Chapter 1, Chaos in the Three Worlds. Part 1, The Reign of Suras and Asuras. In the beginning, there was perfect balance in the three worlds. Both Suras and Asuras were children of the same divine source. They shared the great duty of keeping creation safe and strong. The Suras lived in the bright heavens above. They controlled the winds, rains, fire, and light. They brought good harvests to the earth. They blessed those who prayed with pure hearts. Their leader Indra ruled with wisdom and power. The Asuras ruled the lower worlds with equal strength. They managed the deep waters and hidden treasures of the earth. They kept the foundations of the world stable. Without them, the mountains would shake and the oceans would dry up. Both groups worked together like two hands of one body. When the Suras brought light, the Asuras provided the darkness for rest. When the Suras sent rain from above, the Asuras kept the underground waters flowing. This balance kept all life moving in proper order. Neither group was fully good or fully evil. Both had power, both had duties, both were needed. The cosmic wheel turned smoothly because of their cooperation. Humans below lived in peace, not knowing about this careful balance above them. For long ages, this harmony continued. The Suras performed their sacred rituals in heaven. The Asuras maintained their ancient traditions below. They met at cosmic boundaries to settle disputes with respect. Sometimes, they even celebrated together during great festivals. Each group respected the other's domain. The Suras did not try to rule the underworld. The Asuras did not reach for the heavens. This mutual respect kept peace between them. Their children sometimes married across the divide, creating bonds of kinship. The earth below flourished under this dual protection. Seasons came and went in perfect timing. Rivers flowed clean and full. Trees gave sweet fruits. Animals lived without fear. Humans grew wise and strong, following the laws of Dharma. But even in those peaceful times, small seeds of pride were growing. Some among the Suras began to think they were more important because they lived in the bright realms. Some Asuras started to believe their power over the earth made them superior. These feelings stayed hidden for now, like fire covered by ash. The great duties still called both groups to work together. The cosmic order still held firm. Yet the perfect balance was becoming more fragile with each passing age. Neither Suras nor Asuras could see what was coming. They did not know that their peaceful world would soon be shattered by a single moment of great foolishness. Part 2, The Curse of Durvasa. In those ancient days, when pride had begun to grow among the Devas, there lived a great sage named Durvasa. This sage was known throughout the three worlds for his powerful prayers and quick anger. He had gained special powers through years of hard practice and devotion to the Supreme Lord. One day, Sage Durvasa was walking through the heavenly realms when he came upon a beautiful garland. This was no ordinary garland. It was made from the most sacred flowers and blessed with divine fortune. The garland held within it the power to bring good luck, strength, and glory to whoever wore it with proper respect. The sage was pleased to see this sacred gift from the gods. He decided to offer it to Indra, the king of the Devas, as a mark of honor and blessing. Durvasa knew that such a divine garland should be treated with the highest reverence. Soon, Sage Durvasa met Indra riding on his great white elephant, Airavata. The king of the Devas was surrounded by his court and looked magnificent in his royal glory. Durvasa approached him with folded hands and spoke with respect. "O King Indra, Lord of the heavens, please accept this blessed garland as a gift from one who serves the divine order," said Durvasa, offering the sacred flowers with both hands. Indra took the garland, but his mind was filled with the pride that had been growing in his heart. He did not think about the sacred nature of the gift or the respect due to the holy sage. Instead, without any thought, he casually placed the divine garland on the head of his elephant. Airavata, being only an animal, did not understand the sacred value of the garland. The elephant took the flowers in its trunk and threw them to the ground. The blessed garland fell into the dust and was trampled under the elephant's feet. When sage Durvasa saw this terrible disrespect, his face became dark with anger. His eyes burned like fire. The sacred gift had been treated like common flowers. The sage who had spent his life in service to the divine order felt deeply insulted. Indra, shouted the sage, his voice shaking the heavens. You have shown that pride has made you blind. You cannot see the value of divine blessings. You treat sacred gifts like worthless things. The sage raised his hand and spoke words that would change the fate of all the Devas. Because you have no respect for what is holy, you will lose all your strength, fortune, and glory. The power that makes you king of the Devas will leave you. Your divine light will fade, and your enemies will defeat you. Indra realized his mistake too late. He got down from his elephant and fell at the sage's feet, begging for forgiveness. But Durvasa's anger was like a raging fire that could not be stopped. The words are spoken and cannot be taken back, declared the sage. You and all the Devas will face the results of your thoughtless pride. From that moment, the curse began to work. The divine glory of the Devas started to fade like the light of the sun being covered by dark clouds. Their strength began to flow away like water from a broken pot. The balance that had kept peace in the three worlds was now completely broken by one act of foolish pride. Part 3. The Weakening of the Devas. The curse began its terrible work upon the Devas like a poison spreading through their divine bodies. Day by day, their celestial light grew dimmer. Week by week, their mighty strength ebbed away like water flowing from a cracked vessel. Indra, the king of heaven, was the first to feel the curse's power. His thunderbolt, once capable of splitting mountains, became heavy in his hands. The divine radiance that had surrounded him for countless ages began to fade. His crown, which had shone like 1,000 suns, lost its brilliance and became dull like ordinary metal. The other Devas watched in fear as the same fate befell them all. Agni, the god of fire, found his flames growing weaker. Vayu, the wind god, could barely stir the leaves on trees. Varuna, lord of waters, saw his mighty oceans become still and lifeless. One by one, each Deva felt their divine powers slip away from them like sand through their fingers. Their magnificent palaces in heaven, once built of gold and precious gems, began to crack and crumble. The celestial gardens where divine flowers bloomed eternal started to wither. The nectar that had kept them immortal turned bitter in their mouths. The very air of heaven, which had been sweet with divine fragrance, became stale and lifeless. Fear crept into their hearts like a cold wind. For the first time in their endless existence, the Devas knew what it meant to feel weak and helpless. They looked at each other with worried eyes, seeing their own terror reflected in the faces of their brothers. The curse worked slowly but surely, stripping away everything that had made them gods. Their immortal bodies began to age. Their divine weapons became as useless as toys. Their ability to see across the three worlds grew dim. They could no longer travel instantly from place to place or change their forms at will. Without their divine strength, the Devas could not protect the good people on earth. They could not maintain the natural order of seasons and rain. They could not keep evil forces at bay. The balance that had kept the universe in harmony for so long was breaking apart piece by piece. In the depths of their despair, the Devas realized they were no longer the mighty rulers of heaven. They had become as vulnerable as mortals, stripped of the very essence that had made them divine. Their time of glory was ending, and dark days lay ahead. Part 4. The Triumph of the Asuras. The Triumph of the Asuras. The Asuras watched with growing delight as the Devas grew weaker each day. They had waited long for this moment, when the balance would tip in their favor. With sharp eyes and cunning minds, they saw the perfect chance to strike. The Asuras had always been strong warriors and skilled in magic, but the Devas' power had kept them in check for ages. Now that the curse had stripped the Devas of their might, nothing stood in the Asuras' way. They gathered their armies and prepared for war. Led by their fierce kings, the Asuras marched toward heaven itself. Their weapons gleamed in the cosmic light as they crossed the boundaries that had once seemed impossible to breach. The sound of their war drums echoed through all three worlds. The weakened Devas tried to defend their realm, but their efforts were like shadows fighting against solid rock. Without their divine strength, their weapons felt heavy in their hands. Their armor provided no protection against the Asuras' fierce attacks. One by one, the great palaces of heaven fell to the Asuras. They conquered the gardens where wish-fulfilling trees grew. They seized the pools of divine nectar. They claimed the halls where cosmic laws had been written since time began. The Asuras did not stop at heaven. They turned their attention to the middle world where humans lived. There, they spread fear and chaos. Good people found no protection from evil. Justice became weak while cruelty grew strong. The natural order that the Devas had maintained for countless years began to collapse. In the underworld too, the Asuras established their rule. They controlled all three levels of existence, something that had never happened before in the history of creation. The cosmic balance that kept everything in harmony was completely overturned. The Asura kings sat on thrones that once belonged to the greatest Devas. They wore crowns of victory and declared themselves the true rulers of all worlds. Their laughter rang through the halls of heaven as they celebrated their complete triumph. The Devas, once proud and mighty, now wandered like homeless beggars. They had lost everything. Their homes, their power, their dignity, and their purpose. Some hid in remote corners of the universe, afraid to show themselves. Others fled to places where even light could not reach. With the Asuras in control, Dharma itself was in danger. The cosmic law that supported truth, goodness, and order was being crushed under the weight of the Asuras' rule. Adharma spread like wildfire through all the worlds. The universe had turned upside down. Those who were meant to protect had become the protected. Those who once served now commanded. The natural flow of cosmic energy was blocked, causing suffering everywhere. In their desperation, the defeated Devas realized they could not win this battle with their own strength. They needed help from someone far greater than themselves. Chapter 2. Vishnu's Counsel and the Cosmic Bargain. Part 1. The Plea to Vishnu. The Devas stood in defeat before Vishnu, their bodies weak and their spirits broken. Once mighty gods who ruled the heavens with power and glory, they now came as beggars seeking help. Their golden crowns had lost their shine. Their weapons lay heavy in their hands, and their voices trembled as they spoke. Indra, king of the Devas, fell to his knees first. "Lord Vishnu," he said, "we have lost everything. The Asuras have taken our strength, our homes, and our place in heaven. We cannot eat, we cannot sleep, we cannot fight. Our bodies grow weak like old men, and our enemies laugh at us." The other Devas joined him on the ground. Some wept openly. Others stared at the earth in shame. Varuna spoke with a cracking voice. "The waters obey the Asuras now, not me." Agni whispered, "My fires burn cold and weak." Vayu said, "Even the winds blow against us." They told Vishnu how Durvasa's curse had stripped away their power. They described how the Asuras had driven them from their palaces and taken their treasures. They admitted they had tried to fight back many times, but failed again and again. "We thought we were strong enough alone," said Indra. "We believed our weapons and our courage would be enough. But we were wrong. We are nothing without you, Lord. We cannot win this war by ourselves." Vishnu looked upon them with eyes full of love and understanding. He did not scold them for their pride or remind them of their mistakes. Instead, he spoke with a voice as gentle as rain on dry earth. "My children," Vishnu said, "strength is not always about fighting harder. Sometimes wisdom matters more than power. Sometimes patience wins where anger fails. You have learned something important today. You have learned that even gods need help." The Devas lifted their heads to listen. Hope began to stir in their hearts like the first light of dawn. "Do not think your defeat is the end," Vishnu continued. "Every sunset leads to sunrise. Every winter leads to spring. Your time of suffering will pass, but first you must do something very difficult. You must work with your enemies." The Devas gasped. Work with the Asuras? The idea seemed impossible. Vishnu raised his hand to quiet them. "Listen well. There is a way to regain your strength, but it requires great patience and greater faith. You must churn the ocean of milk to obtain Amrita, the nectar that gives eternal life. But this task is too great for you alone. The Asuras must help you." "How can we trust them?" asked Indra. "You cannot," Vishnu replied, "and they cannot trust you. But their greed will make them cooperate. Promise them a share of the nectar. Let them think they will drink it too. Work together until the churning is done. Then leave the rest to me." The Devas looked at each other with doubt and worry. But Vishnu's words carried the power of truth, and slowly they began to understand. "Trust in my plan," Vishnu said. "Endure what must be endured. Be patient when you want to fight. Be humble when you want to boast. Do this, and you will be restored to your rightful place." One by one, the Devas bowed their heads and agreed to follow his counsel. Part 2. Vishnu's Plan of Amrita. With the Devas now committed to his plan, Vishnu began to speak of the great work that lay ahead. His voice carried the weight of cosmic knowledge as he revealed the path to their salvation. "Listen well," Vishnu said, his eyes reflecting the depths of eternity. "There exists a vast ocean of milk, pure and white as the finest pearl. This is Kshira Sagara, the cosmic sea that holds within its depths the greatest treasure of all creation." The Devas leaned forward, their faces filled with hope and wonder. Vishnu continued, "Deep within these milky waters lies Amrita, the nectar of immortality. This divine substance can restore your strength, grant you eternal life, and return to you all that you have lost." Indra spoke first, his voice trembling with eagerness. "But Lord, how can we reach this nectar? The ocean is vast, and its depths are beyond our power to explore." Vishnu smiled with the wisdom of ages. "You must churn the ocean as a farmer churns milk to make butter. But this churning will require strength beyond what any of you possess alone. You must work together with your enemies, the Asuras." The Devas gasped in shock. Some stepped back in disbelief. "Work with the Asuras?" Vayu asked. "Those who have taken everything from us? Those who would destroy us without thought?" "Yes," Vishnu replied firmly. "Tell them of the nectar. Speak of immortality and eternal power. Their greed will make them eager to join this great work. Promise them a share of whatever comes from the churning." Agni frowned deeply. "But Lord, if we give them the nectar, will they not become even stronger? Will this not make our situation worse?" Vishnu's eyes twinkled with divine knowledge. "Trust in my wisdom. Speak truthfully of the churning, but leave the final outcome to me. The work itself requires both sides. Neither Devas nor Asuras alone can accomplish this task." "The churning will be hard," Vishnu warned them. "You will need a mountain for a churning rod and a great serpent for a rope. The ocean will resist your efforts. Strange and terrible things will emerge from its depths before the nectar appears. You must be prepared to face whatever comes." He looked at each Deva in turn. "This work will test your patience, your strength, and your faith. There will be moments when you want to abandon the task. There will be times when the Asuras seem to gain advantage. But if you follow my guidance exactly, victory will be yours." The plan was both simple and magnificent, By working together, the ancient enemies would churn the cosmic ocean and bring forth treasures beyond imagination. But only Vishnu knew the full truth of what would unfold, and how the nectar would ultimately serve the cause of righteousness. Part 3. The Uneasy Alliance. When the gods heard Vishnu's plan, they looked at each other with worry. The task seemed impossible. How could they work alongside their greatest enemies? The Asuras had been their opponents for countless ages. They had fought in terrible battles that shook the heavens. Blood had been spilled. Trust had been broken long ago. But the gods were desperate. Without their power, they were nothing. Indra spoke first. "Lord Vishnu, how can we trust the Asuras? They have cheated us before. They will try to steal the nectar for themselves." The other gods nodded in agreement. They feared being betrayed. Vishnu smiled with understanding. "I know your concerns are real. The Asuras will indeed think only of themselves. But remember, they also want the nectar badly. Their greed will make them work, and I will be watching everything that happens." The gods had no other choice. They agreed to approach their enemies with this strange offer. When they reached the Asura realm, the demon king Bali listened to their words with suspicion. His eyes narrowed. "Why would you share such a prize with us? What trick is this?" The lead god messenger spoke carefully. "The ocean is too vast. Mount Mandara is too heavy. Neither of us can do this work alone, but together we might succeed. We propose to share the nectar equally." The Asuras talked among themselves in hushed voices. They too were curious about this nectar of immortality, but they trusted the gods even less than the gods trusted them. Finally, Bali spoke. "We accept your offer, but we will watch you closely. Any sign of betrayal, and we will take everything for ourselves." Both sides agreed, but neither meant to keep their word. The gods secretly planned to claim the nectar once it appeared. The Asuras made the same plans in their own councils. Each group believed they were cleverer than the other. The alliance was formed, but it was built on lies and mistrust. Both sides smiled when they met, but their hands stayed near their weapons. They spoke politely, but their eyes showed hatred. This was not friendship. It was a temporary pause in their eternal war. Yet something greater than their hatred was at work. The cosmic ocean needed to be churned. The treasures hidden in its depths needed to emerge. And for this great task to succeed, even enemies had to work as one. Their greed would serve a purpose they could not yet see. The preparations began immediately. Both sides gathered their strongest warriors. They sharpened their tools and planned their strategies. Each group hoped to outlast the other when the real work started. The uneasy partnership was ready to begin its greatest test. Part 4. The Mount Mandara Problem. The Devas and Asuras looked upon the vast ocean that stretched beyond sight. They needed a churning rod mighty enough to stir these endless waters. After much debate, they chose Mount Mandara, greatest of all mountains. Its peak touched the heavens and its roots reached deep into the earth. Mount Mandara stood like a pillar between worlds. Its size was beyond measure, and its strength was legendary. The mountain held the power of creation itself within its rocky core. Both Devas and Asuras agreed this was the only tool that could churn the cosmic ocean. With great effort, they lifted the enormous mountain from its foundation. The earth shook as Mandara rose into the sky. Thunder rolled across the heavens as they carried it toward the ocean. All creation watched as the mountain moved from land to water. They placed Mount Mandara carefully upon the ocean's surface. The water rippled outward in great waves. For a moment, the mountain floated like a giant island. Hope filled the hearts of both Devas and Asuras. But then disaster struck without warning. The mighty mountain began to sink. Its massive weight pulled it down through the water. The ocean, despite its vastness, could not support such tremendous mass. Mandara descended deeper and deeper beneath the waves. Fear gripped both sides as they watched their plan crumble. The Devas cried out in dismay. The Asuras shouted in anger and frustration. All their preparations seemed worthless as the mountain disappeared into the depths. The churning rod was lost before the churning could begin. They tried desperately to lift Mandara back to the surface. Their combined strength, which had moved the mountain before, now proved useless. The ocean held it fast in its depths. Every attempt to raise it failed completely. Panic spread through both armies. Without Mount Mandara, they could not churn the ocean. Without churning, there would be no Amrita. Their dreams of immortality were sinking along with the mountain. The alliance they had formed now seemed pointless. The Devas blamed the Asuras for choosing too heavy a mountain. The Asuras accused the Devas of weakness in handling it. Old hatreds began to surface again. Their fragile cooperation was breaking apart just when they needed it most. As they stood helpless on the shore, the truth became clear. Neither Devas nor Asuras possessed the power to complete this cosmic task alone. Their strength, though great, had limits they had not recognized. The ocean itself was proving stronger than both divine races combined. The sinking of Mount Mandara revealed their true nature. They were mighty beings, but not supreme creators. They could move mountains, but they could not master the very forces of existence. This failure humbled them before the vastness of creation. In their desperation, both sides realized they needed help beyond their own power. The cosmic ocean demanded divine intervention of the highest order. Only the preserver of all worlds could save their mission now. Part 5. Summoning the Kurma form. In that moment of despair, when all seemed lost and the cosmic mission faced complete failure, the Supreme Lord Vishnu heard their call. The cries of both Devas and Asuras reached the eternal consciousness that watches over all creation. Their pride had been broken, their strength had proven insufficient, and their need for divine help could no longer be denied. Vishnu, the preserver of all worlds, looked upon the scene with compassion. He saw Mount Mandara sinking deeper into the cosmic waters. He witnessed the growing panic among the divine beings and demons alike. Their great plan was crumbling before their eyes, and with it, their hopes for the nectar of immortality. Without hesitation, the Supreme Lord made his divine decision. The cosmic ocean required a foundation that could not sink, could not break, and could not fail. Only he possessed the power to provide such support. In his infinite wisdom, Vishnu chose to manifest in the form most suited to this cosmic need. The Lord began his transformation. His divine form expanded beyond all measure, taking the shape of a giant tortoise. This was no ordinary turtle, but a cosmic being whose shell could support the weight of mountains and whose strength could endure the churning of entire oceans. The tortoise form, known as Kurma, embodied the very qualities needed for this great task. Patience flowed through every part of the divine tortoise. Where others had shown haste and desperation, Kurma brought steady calm. His shell, harder than diamond and more enduring than time itself, offered the perfect foundation for their endeavor. Stability became manifest in his massive form. The cosmic tortoise settled deep into the ocean waters, his shell creating an unshakable base. No force in creation could move him from his chosen position. His presence transformed the chaotic waters into a solid platform for their work. Endurance marked every breath of the divine avatar. This was no task that would finish quickly. The churning of the cosmic ocean would require countless ages of effort. Only Kurma possessed the strength to sustain such prolonged labor without weakening or failing. As the great tortoise settled into position beneath the sinking mountain, a profound change occurred throughout the cosmos. Mount Mandara, which had been disappearing into the depths, suddenly found firm support. The divine shell caught the mountain and held it steady above the ocean's surface. Both Devas and Asuras watched in wonder as their failing mission was transformed into something magnificent. Where there had been chaos, now there was order. Where there had been collapse, now there was stability. The cosmic tortoise had arrived at the perfect moment to save their great undertaking. The Supreme Lord, in his Kurma form, spoke no words of pride or demand for gratitude. He simply positioned himself as the eternal foundation, ready to bear whatever burden was necessary for the success of the churning. His divine back became the stage upon which one of creation's greatest events would unfold. Chapter 3. The Great Churning of the Ocean. Part 1. The Coiling of Vasuki. Then arose the matter of binding the great serpent to the mountain. The gods approached Vasuki, the king of all serpents, whose body stretched like a mighty river across the celestial realm. His scales gleamed like polished jewels, and his hood cast shadows over entire worlds. "O noble Vasuki," spoke Indra with folded hands, "we seek your aid in this great work. Will you serve as the rope to turn Mount Mandara and churn the ocean of milk?" Vasuki listened with ancient wisdom in his eyes. Though he knew great pain would come to his body from this task, he agreed to help. "I shall do as you ask," he said, "for the good of all creation depends upon this churning." The mighty serpent then coiled himself around Mount Mandara like a rope wound around a spindle. His vast body wrapped the mountain many times, each coil tight and strong enough to move the sacred peak. Now came the question of who would hold which end of the serpent. The Devas moved quickly toward Vasuki's tail, knowing this to be the safer position. But the Asuras, filled with pride, pushed them away. "We shall not hold the tail like servants," declared the demon leaders. "We are mighty beings who deserve the place of honor. We shall hold the head of the great serpent." The Asuras gathered at Vasuki's hooded head. Believing themselves superior to the gods, they grasped the serpent near his mouth with great ceremony, thinking they had won a victory through their boldness. The Devas did not argue. They took hold of Vasuki's tail without complaint, content with their position. In their hearts, they knew that pride often leads to suffering. As the great work began, Vasuki's body stretched and strained. The mountain pressed against his coils, and pain shot through his mighty form. From his mouth came hot breath that burned like fire. With each pull of the Asuras, poisonous fumes poured from his throat. The demons at his head soon felt the serpent's breath scorching their faces. The toxic vapors weakened their bodies and clouded their minds. Their skin burned, their eyes watered, and their strength began to fail. Yet their pride would not let them release their grip or admit their error. Meanwhile, the Devas at the tail breathed clean air and remained strong. They pulled with steady force, their bodies unharmed by poison or flame. Thus, the great serpent Vasuki became the rope of churning, his sacrifice making possible the cosmic work. His pain served a purpose greater than himself, though he suffered greatly in the process. The Asuras held fast to the head despite their torment, their arrogance blinding them to wisdom. The Devas pulled from the tail with quiet determination, knowing that sometimes the humble position proves most blessed. Back and forth they pulled, gods and demons united in effort, yet divided by their choices. The Serpent King endured all, his body serving the cosmic purpose, while his breath revealed the consequences of prideful decisions. Part 2. The Poison of Destruction. The Great Churning began with tremendous force. Gods and demons pulled with all their might, the mighty mountain spinning round and round in the cosmic waters. But as the ocean force stirred for the first time since creation, something terrible rose from the depths. The first thing to emerge was not the precious nectar they all sought. Instead, a deadly poison called Hala Hala, bubbled up from the deepest parts of the sea. This was no ordinary poison. It was the essence of destruction itself, formed over countless ages in the ocean's darkest corners. The poison spread quickly through the waters, its terrible fumes rising high into the sky. The very air became thick with death. Where the poison touched, everything began to wither and die. The churning stopped as both gods and demons stepped back in horror. The deadly vapors reached the heavens above and the underworld below. All creation trembled. Birds fell from the sky. Trees withered to ash. Even the mighty warriors who had been churning began to choke and fall. The poison threatened to destroy everything that existed. Panic filled the hearts of gods and demons alike. They had sought immortality, but instead had awakened death itself. None knew what to do. The strongest weapons were useless against this cosmic poison. No shield could protect against its deadly breath. In this moment of complete despair, the gods turned their eyes to Shiva, the great destroyer and transformer. They called out to him with desperate voices, begging him to save all creation from the terrible poison they had released. Shiva heard their cries. Without hesitation, he came to the place of churning. He looked upon the spreading poison that threatened to end all life. In his infinite compassion, he knew what must be done. Taking the poison in his divine hand, Shiva lifted it to his lips. He drank the deadly Hala Hala completely, taking all of it into himself. As the poison entered his body, it began to travel toward his stomach, where it would have caused him great suffering. But Parvati, his beloved consort, saw what was happening. With her divine power, she pressed her hand gently against Shiva's throat. Her touch stopped the poison from going further into his body. The Hala Hala remained trapped in his throat. The poison turned Shiva's throat a deep blue color, marking him forever with this act of sacrifice. From that day forward, he became known as Neelkantha, meaning blue throat. This blue mark became a sign of his great love for all creation. By drinking the poison, Shiva saved the entire universe from destruction. The deadly fumes disappeared. Life returned to the withered plants and fallen creatures. The air became pure again. Gods and demons could breathe freely once more. This great sacrifice showed the true nature of Shiva. Though he is called the destroyer, he destroyed only the poison that would have killed everything. His act revealed that sometimes the greatest protection comes through accepting suffering for others. Part 3. The Treasures of the Depths. When the poison was safely held in Shiva's throat, the great churning began once more. The gods and demons pulled with renewed strength. Mount Mandara turned faster in the ocean waters. As it spun, the depths of the sea began to give up their hidden treasures. First came Kamadhenu, the divine cow. She rose from the foaming waters, white as fresh milk and glowing with inner light. This was no ordinary cow. Whatever anyone wished for, Kamadhenu could provide. She could give endless milk, grain, gold, or anything the heart desired. The wise sages claimed her immediately, knowing she would help them care for all living beings. Next appeared Uchayashravas, a magnificent horse with 7 heads and wings like clouds. His coat was pure white, brighter than moonlight. This celestial horse could fly through the 3 worlds faster than wind or thought. Indra, king of the gods, took him as his mount. When Uchayashravas galloped through the sky, thunder rolled from his hooves. Then the ocean released Airavata, a massive white elephant with 4 tusks. He was taller than the tallest trees and stronger than mountains. Airavata became Indra's companion and the king of all elephants. When he trumpeted, rain clouds gathered. When he walked, the earth trembled with respect. From the churning waters grew Kalpavriksha, the wish-fulfilling tree. Its branches reached toward heaven, while its roots went deep into the earth. Golden fruits hung from every branch. Whoever sat beneath this tree and made a pure wish would see it come true. The tree's leaves sang sweet melodies in the wind. Its flowers never wilted and gave off the most beautiful fragrance. As the churning continued, groups of Asuras emerged from the sea. These were heavenly dancers of incredible beauty. Their skin glowed like gold. Their hair flowed like dark rivers. When they danced, even the stars stopped moving to watch. Their voices were sweeter than any music ever heard. The Asuras brought joy and celebration wherever they went. Each treasure that appeared created wonder among the gods and demons. But wonder soon turned to desire. Both sides began to argue about who should receive what gifts. The demons claimed they had worked just as hard as the gods. The gods insisted their pure intentions made them more deserving. The beautiful Asuras chose sides, some favoring the gods, while others went to the demons. This created jealousy and fighting. The wish-fulfilling cow made both groups dream of endless wealth and power. The divine horse made them imagine conquering all the worlds. The magical tree promised that any desire could be fulfilled. What had started as cooperation was becoming competition. The very treasures that should have brought happiness began to cause division. Greed grew in the hearts of both gods and demons. Each side watched the other carefully, afraid they might lose their share of the wonders. The churning had revealed a truth about all great efforts. When people work towards something valuable, they often receive gifts they did not expect. But these gifts test their character. Some treasures bring blessing, while others bring temptation. The ocean was teaching them that seeking the highest reward means facing both the best and worst that can emerge from the depths of existence. Part 4. The Lakshmi Emergence. As the churning continued, the ocean began to glow with a soft light that spread across the water like the first rays of dawn. From the depths, a figure began to rise, seated upon a beautiful lotus flower that bloomed as it touched the surface. This was Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and good fortune, emerging from the cosmic waters. Her beauty was beyond description. She wore robes of gold that sparkled like stars, and jewels adorned her form. Her skin glowed with the radiance of the full moon, and her eyes held the gentle warmth of a mother's love. 4 white elephants appeared beside her, pouring sacred water from golden vessels over her divine form. The ocean itself seemed to celebrate her arrival, with waves dancing in joy around her lotus throne. As Lakshmi rose from the waters, all creation paused to witness her glory. The gods and demons stopped their churning, mesmerized by her presence. Even the wind grew still, and the cosmos held its breath. Her emergence brought immediate peace to the troubled waters and harmony to the cosmic struggle. Lakshmi looked upon all the assembled beings with compassion. The gods gazed at her with hope, knowing that her blessing would bring prosperity to their realm. The demons also desired her favor, believing that wealth would give them power over the universe. But Lakshmi's wisdom was deeper than their understanding. She carried in her hands lotus flowers that never wilted, symbols of purity that could bloom even in muddy waters. Around her neck hung garlands of gold that caught the light of distant stars. Her presence made everything around her more beautiful and blessed. Then came the moment that would define the cosmic order. Lakshmi must choose where to place her eternal blessing. The demons called to her, promising her great worship and offering her treasures from their realm. But Lakshmi looked beyond their offers to see the truth in their hearts. She turned toward Vishnu, who had taken the form of Kurma, the great turtle, supporting Mount Mandara throughout the entire churning. In him, she saw the perfect protector, the one who maintained balance and order in the universe. Without hesitation, she moved toward him, placing a garland of victory around his neck. This choice was not mere preference, but cosmic law. Lakshmi represents prosperity that comes through righteousness. She cannot remain where Dharma is absent. By choosing Vishnu, she showed that true wealth follows virtue, and lasting fortune comes only to those who uphold divine order. The gods rejoiced at her choice, while the demons grew angry. But Lakshmi's decision was final and just. From that moment, she became Vishnu's eternal consort, ensuring that divine prosperity would always support the preservation of righteousness in the universe. Part 5. The Culmination, Dhanvantari and the Pot of Nectar. At last, when the ocean had given up its greatest treasures, the waters began to glow with a divine light. From these sacred depths rose Dhanvantari, the celestial physician and healer of the gods. His form was radiant and perfect, holding the knowledge of all medicine and healing arts. In his 4 hands, he carried the tools of divine healing, but most precious of all was what he held in his primary hands. There, gleaming like captured starlight, was the pot of Amrita. This was the nectar of immortality, the very reason for all their great effort. The pot shone with its own inner light, and from it came the sweet fragrance that promised eternal life to whoever would drink from it. This was what both gods and demons had worked so hard to obtain. The moment Dhanvantari appeared with the nectar pot, all churning stopped. Gods and demons alike stared at the prize they had labored so long to gain. The air grew thick with tension as both sides realized that their cooperation must now end. Each group wanted the nectar for themselves alone. The demons spoke first among themselves. "We have done equal work in this churning. Half the nectar belongs to us by right." The gods whispered their own plans. The nectar must not fall into demon hands, or they will use their immortality to destroy Dharma and bring chaos to all worlds. Dhanvantari stood between them, holding the pot that both sides desired above all else. His presence was calm and peaceful, for he understood the true nature of healing and life. Yet he also knew that great conflict was about to begin. The nectar in his hands represented the ultimate prize, but it also carried the seeds of the greatest battle. The demons began to move forward, their eyes fixed on the precious pot. They had endured the poisonous breath of Vasuki. They had pulled with all their strength, and they believed the reward was rightfully theirs. The gods also prepared themselves, knowing that immortal demons would bring endless suffering to all good beings. The fragile peace that had allowed gods and demons to work together was breaking apart. Greed and desire for the nectar overcame all other thoughts. Both sides forgot their earlier cooperation and remembered only their eternal opposition to each other. Dhanvantari, the divine physician, held in his hands not just the nectar of immortality, but the cause of the greatest conflict between gods and demons. The pot of Amrita would decide the fate of Dharma and the balance of all creation. Chapter 4. The Struggle for Immortality. Part 1. The Conflict over Nectar. The sacred nectar of immortality rose from the churned ocean like a brilliant light. All the divine powers and demons stopped their work. They stared at the golden pot that held the drink of eternal life. The demons moved first. They were stronger and more in number. They rushed forward and grabbed the pot with greedy hands. Their leader held it high and shouted with joy, "This is ours. We have worked hard for this. Now we will live forever and rule over all the worlds." The demons laughed loudly. They had waited so long for this moment. With immortality, they could defeat anyone. The gods would bow before them. The 3 worlds would be theirs to control. But the gods would not give up so easily. They had also worked hard to churn the ocean. They had also suffered through the poison and the dangers. The nectar belonged to them too. "Stop," called out Indra, the king of gods. "We work together to bring forth this nectar. We must share it equally between us." The demons sneered at him. "Share? Why should we share with you? We are stronger. We took it first. It is ours by right of power." The gods grew angry. They could not let the demons drink the nectar alone. If the demons became immortal while the gods remained weak, evil would rule forever. Good would die. The world would fall into darkness. A fierce fight began right there beside the ocean. Gods and demons who had worked side by side now struck each other with weapons. The pot of nectar was passed from hand to hand as each side tried to claim it. The demons were winning. They were still strong from their time of power. The gods were still weak from their curse. Every moment, the gods grew weaker while the demons grew bolder. "We will drink this nectar and become the rulers of all creation," shouted the Demon King. "No power in heaven or earth will stop us." The ocean waves crashed wildly as the battle raged. The earth shook beneath their feet. The sky grew dark with storm clouds. All of creation watched to see who would win. The gods fought with the strength of those who have nothing left to lose, but they were too weak. One by one, they began to fall back. The demons pressed forward, pushing them away from the precious nectar. This was the moment that would decide everything. If the demons drank the nectar of immortality, they would never die. They would rule with cruelty forever. All that was good and pure would be destroyed. The gods looked up to the heavens for help. They had done their part. They had churned the ocean as they were told. Now they needed divine help to save the world from eternal darkness. Part 2. Vishnu as Mohini. The gods cried out to Vishnu, their protector and savior. They had lost everything. The demons held the pot of nectar in their hands. Soon they would drink it and become immortal. The world would fall into darkness forever. Vishnu heard their prayer. He knew what must be done. In that moment, he used his divine power to change his form. His body became soft and beautiful. His voice became sweet like honey. His hair flowed like silk. His eyes sparkled like stars. He had become Mohini, the most beautiful woman in all creation. No one had ever seen such beauty before. Even the gods stopped their fighting to look at her. But the demons were completely lost. They forgot about everything else. They forgot about the nectar. They forgot about their plans to rule the world. They could only stare at this beautiful woman who appeared before them. Mohini spoke to them with a voice like music. Her words were gentle and kind. She smiled at the demons and they felt their hearts melt. She walked toward them slowly. Every step was like a dance. The demons watched her move and felt dizzy with desire. "My dear warriors," Mohini said softly, "you have fought so hard. You have worked so much. Now you deserve your reward. But why fight over it like common thieves? Let me help you. I will give the nectar to everyone fairly. I will make sure each of you gets what you deserve." The demons looked at each other. They were suspicious at first, but when they looked at Mohini again, all doubt left their minds. How could such a beautiful and gentle woman trick them? She must be telling the truth. She must want to help them. "Yes," they said, "you divide it for us. We trust you completely." This was exactly what Vishnu had planned. The demons handed over the pot of nectar to Mohini. They sat down in neat rows like children waiting for their teacher. They smiled and laughed. They pushed each other playfully. They were so happy that this beautiful woman would serve them. But Mohini was not just beautiful, she was also very clever. She walked first to where the gods were sitting. They were weak and tired from the long battle. She poured the nectar into their cups. One by one, the gods drank the divine liquid. As soon as it touched their lips, strength flowed back into their bodies. Their wounds healed. Their eyes became bright again. The demons watched this and felt nothing but joy. They clapped their hands. They cheered for their friends the gods. Mohini had put a spell on their minds. They could not think clearly anymore. All they could see was her beauty. All they could hear was her sweet voice. "Soon it will be your turn," Mohini told the demons. "Just wait a little longer." But there was no nectar left for the demons. Mohini had given it all to the gods. This was the divine plan. The gods needed the nectar to restore balance to the world. The demons would only use it to cause more suffering. When the last god had drunk his share, Mohini disappeared. In her place stood Vishnu in his true form. The demons rubbed their eyes. They looked around in confusion. The spell was broken. They could think clearly again. "Where is the nectar?" they screamed. "Where is our share?" But it was too late. The gods now had their strength back. They stood up tall and strong. Their weapons shined in the light. The demons realized they had been tricked, but there was nothing they could do about it now. Part 3. Devas received the nectar. The gods had received the nectar. They felt the power flow through their bodies like warm light. Their eyes began to shine with new life. Their muscles grew strong again. The weakness that had troubled them for so long was gone. Each god stood taller than before. Their skin glowed with divine radiance that had been missing for many years. Indra, the king of gods, felt his strength return first. He lifted his thunderbolt weapon and it felt light in his hands again. The other gods watched as his crown began to shine with its old glory. Surya, the sun god, felt his light grow brighter. His rays reached further across the worlds. Vayu, the wind god, moved with speed he had forgotten. His breath carried fresh life to all living things. The nectar worked quickly in their divine bodies. Years of defeat and shame melted away. The gods remembered what it felt like to be protectors of Dharma. They were meant to keep balance in the universe. They were meant to guard truth and goodness. The nectar had given them back their purpose along with their power. As the gods grew stronger, they looked at the demons with new eyes. The demons were still confused from Mohini's spell. They stumbled around, asking where their nectar had gone. Some tried to grab the empty pot. Others shouted at each other in anger. They had been so sure they would get immortality. Now they had nothing. The gods felt ready for battle again. Their weapons appeared in their hands without effort. Their armor shined like stars. They had been running from fights for too long. They had been hiding while the demons caused trouble in the worlds. But now they could face their enemies with confidence. Vishnu stood among them in his true form. He smiled at the gods with kindness. He had saved them once again through his wisdom. The gods bowed to him with grateful hearts. They knew they owed their lives to his clever plan. Without his help as Mohini, they would still be weak and defeated. The demons finally understood what had happened. Their eyes cleared from the spell. They saw the strong gods standing ready to fight. They saw their own empty hands. Rage filled their hearts. They screamed threats and curses at the gods, but their anger could not change what had been done. The gods prepared to restore order to the universe. They had work to do. The demons had caused much harm while the gods were weak. Cities needed protection. Good people needed help. The balance between good and evil had to be fixed. With their immortality restored, the gods were ready to fulfill their duty once more. Part 4. The Death of Rahu. Among the demons sat one called Rahu. He was clever and full of tricks. While Mohini gave the nectar to the gods, Rahu watched carefully. He saw how she moved. He saw how she looked at each face. He planned his move. Rahu changed his form. He made himself look like one of the gods. His skin became bright. His clothes became pure. His face became noble. He moved quietly to where the gods sat. He found an empty place between two gods. He sat down and waited. The sun god and moon god sat on both sides of him, but they did not know who he really was. Rahu smiled like the gods smiled. He spoke like the gods spoke. When Mohini came near, he held out his hands like the gods did. Mohini came to him with the nectar. The golden liquid shone in the cup. Rahu's eyes grew wide with hunger. This was what he wanted. This would make him live forever. This would make him stronger than all gods and demons. He took the cup in his hands. The nectar felt warm. It smelled like flowers and honey. He lifted it to his lips. He drank deep. The liquid flowed down his throat. It reached his stomach. Power began to fill his body. But Vishnu saw everything. Even while he wore Mohini's form, his divine sight never closed. He knew each god by their true nature. He knew their souls. When he looked at Rahu, he saw the demon's dark heart. Rahu had swallowed the nectar, but it had not yet spread through all his body. Vishnu acted fast. He brought forth his weapon, the great spinning disc called Sudarshana Chakra. The disc blazed with fire. It moved faster than lightning. The disc flew through the air. It struck Rahu at the neck. The sharp edge cut clean through. Rahu's head flew from his body. Blood sprayed across the ground. His body fell forward and lay still. But the nectar had already reached Rahu's head. His head lived on. His eyes still moved. His mouth still spoke. He had become something new, part demon, part immortal. His body was dead, but his head would live forever. Rahu's head rose into the sky. Anger burned in his eyes. He looked at the sun god who had sat beside him. He looked at the moon god on his other side. They had not warned Mohini about him. They had let him drink, but they had also watched his death. From that day, Rahu's head flies through the heavens. When he catches the sun, darkness covers the earth. When he catches the moon, shadow falls on the night. People call these times eclipses. They fear when the light goes away. But the sun and moon always escape from Rahu's mouth. He cannot hold them because he has no body. The other demons saw what happened to Rahu. Fear filled their hearts. They knew Vishnu was watching everything. They knew no trick could fool him for long. Some tried to run, some tried to fight, but it was too late. The gods had their strength back. The balance was returning. Vishnu's justice was perfect. Rahu had tried to steal immortality through lies. He got part of what he wanted. His head lived forever, but he also got punishment for his crime. He would spend eternity chasing light, but never catching it. His hunger would never end. Part 5. The restoration of cosmic balance. The gods now had the nectar of life flowing through their bodies. Their strength returned like the sun rising after a dark night. Their faces glowed with divine light again. Their weapons felt light in their hands. Their hearts filled with courage they had lost long ago. The demons saw this change. They saw the gods returning to divine faces. Fear crept into their hearts. They knew the tide had turned against them. The final battle began. The gods marched toward the demons with renewed power. The earth shook under their feet. The sky thundered with their war cries. This was not like their earlier defeats. This time, they fought with the strength of immortals. The demons fought back with all their might. They threw mountains at the gods. They called upon dark magic. They summoned storms and earthquakes. But nothing could stop the gods now. The nectar had made them whole again. Indra raised his thunderbolt. It blazed with divine fire. When it struck, demon armies scattered like leaves in the wind. Vayu brought mighty winds that swept the evil forces away. Agni burned their weapons to ash. Varuna called upon the waters to wash them from the battlefield. The war raged across all three worlds. In heaven, on earth, and in the depths below, the sound of battle echoed. But slowly, surely, the demons were pushed back. Their leaders fell one by one. Their armies broke apart. The gods drove them back to their dark caves. They pushed them into the deepest parts of the underworld. They sealed the gates between the worlds so demons could not easily return. When the battle ended, silence fell across creation. The gods stood victorious. The balance was restored. Light conquered darkness once more. Prosperity returned to all the worlds. Rivers flowed clear again. Trees bore sweet fruit. Rain fell at the right time. The sun shone with gentle warmth. Children laughed without fear. Sages could pray in peace. The gods went back to their duties. They watched over creation with loving care. They protected those who lived good lives. They punished those who chose evil paths. This great churning of the cosmic ocean showed a deep truth. Life brings both poison and nectar. It brings enemies and friends. It brings pain and joy. Sometimes we must work with those we do not trust. Sometimes we face impossible choices. But if we have faith in the divine, if we do what is right, if we serve the greater good, then balance will return. The divine watches over all. Justice may be slow, but it never fails. What seems like defeat can become victory. What looks like an end can become a new beginning. The churning ended, but its lesson remains forever. In every struggle, the divine is present. In every darkness, light waits to return. This is the eternal truth of creation. Chapter 5. The Legacy of Kurma Avatar. Part 1. The Victory of Dharma over Adharma. The great churning of the ocean became a teaching that shows Dharma always wins over Adharma. When Lord Vishnu took the form of Kurma, the divine tortoise, he created the strong base that made balance possible. Without this support, the Devas and Asuras could never have completed their great task. The holy texts tell us that Dharma is not just a word or idea. It is the natural law that keeps all creation working as it should. When the Asuras tried to steal the nectar for themselves, they acted against this law. They showed greed and selfishness. They wanted power without earning it through right actions. The Devas waited patiently and trusted in the divine plan. They knew that those who follow Dharma will receive what they deserve in time. Their faith was rewarded when Lord Vishnu appeared as Mohini and made sure the nectar went to the right hands. The victory came not through fighting alone, but through the steady support of Dharma itself. Lord Kurma held Mount Mandara on his back without moving. This shows us that Dharma provides the foundation that cannot be shaken. Even when great struggles happen above, the base of truth remains firm. The poison halahala came first from the churning. This teaches us that when we disturb the natural order, dangers appear before blessings. Lord Shiva drank this poison to save all beings. This shows that those who follow Dharma are willing to suffer for others. Then came the precious gifts, the goddess Lakshmi, the divine elephant, the celestial horse, and many other treasures. Each gift went to those who deserved them by their nature and actions. The Asuras received only what matched their character. The Devas received abundance because they had prepared themselves through righteous conduct. Finally came Amrita, the nectar of immortality. This greatest gift could only belong to those who live by Dharma. The Asuras fought and quarreled over it, showing their true nature. The Devas accepted it with gratitude and used it wisely. The story shows us that Adharma may seem strong for a while. The Asuras were powerful and clever. They made plans and tried to trick others, but their success was like foam on water. It looked big, but had no lasting substance. Dharma works slowly, but surely, like the steady tortoise. It does not rush or make noise. It simply supports what is right and true. Those who align themselves with Dharma receive protection and guidance. Those who oppose it create their own downfall through their actions. The ocean churning proves that when Dharma and Adharma meet in conflict, Dharma must win. This is not because of favoritism, but because Dharma is the natural state of creation. Adharma is like a disease. It cannot last because it works against that healthy functioning of the universe. This eternal law gives hope to all who suffer under injustice. The victory of Dharma is certain, though it may take time to manifest. Part 2. Lessons of Cooperation and Conflict. Lessons of Cooperation and Conflict. When the Devas and Asuras came together to churn the ocean, they created a great wonder. These two groups had fought for countless ages. They hated each other deeply. Yet they had to work together to get the nectar of immortality from the depths of the sea. This partnership was born from need, not from love. Both sides knew they were too weak to churn the mighty ocean alone. The Devas could not move Mount Mandara by themselves. The Asuras also lacked the strength to complete this great task, so they put aside their hatred and agreed to share the work. For a time, they worked as one. The Devas held one end of the great serpent Vasuki. The Asuras held the other end. Together, they pulled back and forth, using the serpent as a rope around the mountain. Their combined strength made the mountain spin in the ocean waters. But this cooperation was fragile. It lasted only as long as both sides needed each other. Deep in their hearts, each group planned to keep all the nectar for themselves. They did not truly trust each other. They only pretended to be allies. When the nectar finally appeared, their false friendship broke apart. The Asuras quickly grabbed the pot of immortality. They planned to drink it all and leave nothing for the Devas. The cooperation that had seemed so strong disappeared in an instant. This teaches us an important truth about working with others. Sometimes we must join hands with those who oppose us to achieve something great. No person or group has all the power needed for every task. Even enemies can accomplish wonderful things when they combine their efforts. But cooperation built only on selfish need will not last. When people work together but keep planning to betray each other, their partnership will fail at the most important moment. True cooperation requires honest hearts and shared goals. The churning of the ocean shows us that great achievements often require uncomfortable alliances. We may need to work with people we do not like or trust completely. This is part of life's challenges. But we must remember that unity without sincerity is like a rope made of sand. It looks strong, but breaks when we need it most. The Devas and Asuras could have shared the nectar and both become stronger. Instead, their selfishness led to more conflict and suffering. Their story warns us that when we cooperate only to serve our own desires, we plant the seeds of future battles. Part 3. Symbols of hidden riches and dangers. When the great ocean was churned, many things came from its depths. Some brought joy, and others brought fear. This teaches us about the nature of all our efforts in life. First came the deadly poison called Hala Hala. This poison was so strong it could destroy all creation. Lord Shiva had to drink it to save the world. The poison turned his throat blue, but he saved everyone. This shows us that behind every great success, there may be hidden dangers. When we seek wealth or power, we must be ready for the troubles that come with them. The poison represents the bad things that can happen when we try to get what we want. Greed can poison our hearts. Anger can poison our relationships. Pride can poison our wisdom. Just as the ocean held deadly poison beneath its surface, our desires often hide dangers we cannot see at first. But the ocean also gave wonderful gifts. The goddess Lakshmi rose from the waters, bringing wealth and beauty. She chose to stay with Lord Vishnu because he was pure and good. This teaches us that true prosperity comes to those who live with righteousness. Wealth without goodness is like poison, but wealth that comes to good people becomes a blessing for everyone. The white horse Uchhaishravas emerged, swift and powerful. The wish-fulfilling tree Kalpataru came forth, able to grant any desire. These gifts show us that when we work with pure hearts, we receive powers and abilities that can help many people. The divine physician Dhanvantari appeared with the nectar of immortality in his hands. This nectar could make anyone live forever. But immortality is not just about living a long life. It means living in a way that our good actions continue forever. When we help others and follow Dharma, we become immortal through our deeds. The ocean also produced the beautiful Apsaras, celestial dancers who brought joy and entertainment. Even pleasure and beauty have their place in life when they are pure and do not lead us away from our duties. Each treasure that came from the ocean carried both a gift and a responsibility. The wealth of Lakshmi must be used wisely. The power of the horse must serve good purposes. The immortality of the nectar must be earned through right living. Even beauty and pleasure must be enjoyed without forgetting our higher goals. This is the great lesson of the churning. In every human effort, we will find both treasures and troubles. The wise person learns to accept the good gifts while staying alert to the dangers. They use their blessings to help others and never forget that all prosperity comes with the duty to protect and serve. The ocean's gifts remind us that life itself is like this churning. Sometimes we face poison that seems too strong to bear. Sometimes we receive blessings beyond our dreams. Both are part of the same journey. The key is to remain steady like the tortoise, neither running from difficulties nor being corrupted by success. Part 4. The Eternal Role of Vishnu. Vishnu shows us his true nature through the Kurma Avatar. He is the one who keeps all creation safe and balanced. When the world faces great danger, he always comes to help in whatever form is needed. As the great tortoise, Vishnu carried the heavy mountain on his back without complaint. He did not seek praise or glory for this work. He simply did what was needed to save both gods and demons. This teaches us that true strength comes not from showing power, but from serving others with a quiet heart. The Lord can take any form to help creation. Sometimes he appears as a fish, sometimes as a lion, sometimes as a man. But in each form, his purpose remains the same: to protect Dharma and restore balance when evil grows too strong. The tortoise form shows us that even the humblest shape can hold the greatest power when used for good. Vishnu's patience as Kurma was beyond measure. He held the mountains steady through all the churning, even when poison filled the ocean and everyone was afraid. He did not move or shake, no matter how long the work took. This shows us that protecting others requires great patience and the strength to endure hardship without giving up. The tortoise supports everything from below, just as Vishnu supports all creation. We cannot always see his work, but it is always there. He holds up the foundation of existence itself. Without his constant care, everything would fall into chaos and destruction. When we face troubles in our lives, we should remember the example of Kurma. Like the tortoise, we must be steady and strong. We must support our families, our communities, and all those who depend on us. We must not run away when times are hard or when people need our help. The tortoise teaches us to be humble in our service. Even though Vishnu is the greatest of all beings, he was willing to become the foundation for others to stand on. He put himself at the bottom so that others could reach for the treasures above. This is the highest form of love and devotion. Whenever Dharma is threatened, the Lord will come again. He has promised this throughout the ages, whether as Kurma, Rama, Krishna, or in forms yet to come. He will always respond to the prayers of those who call upon him with pure hearts. The Kurma Avatar reminds us that divine help is always available to those who work for righteousness. We need not fear any crisis or challenge, for the Lord who held up Mount Mandara still watches over us today. His strength supports us in every moment, just as it supported the great churning of the cosmic ocean.